So we gather here today to witness the renewal of the union and the vows of Brian and Lindsay. Last year, Brian and Lindsay joined each other in marriage, and as part of that ceremony, they made vows and commitments to each other. They've come here today to share those promises with each of you here, so you can be witnesses to their love and their commitment to each other. I was fortunate enough to be here for the ceremony last year with some small group of family and friends, but it was very important to Brian and Lindsay that they got to share it with everybody they cared about. The main reason I believe today is special is because it is a celebration. The big question there is what are we celebrating and why? We celebrate a lot of things. We celebrate holidays, we celebrate birthdays, new jobs, the victories of our favorite sports teams. But a marriage celebrates two things that are much bigger and much more important than those two things. The first thing that every marriage celebrates is love. There's nothing more important to celebrate than when you find that person that you can trust, that you can be vulnerable with, that you can share your dreams, experience the world, travel the world, celebrate your wins, and that person that can comfort you during your losses. Brian and Lindsay found that, and that is the first thing that we are celebrating today. Now that's what marriage in general celebrates, and every marriage celebrates love. But each individual marriage has something special that it celebrates on its own. The biggest thing we are celebrating here today is the life that Brian and Lindsay have created together. I look out at everybody here in the crowd and I can see pieces of that life. All of you are a piece of the puzzle that is the love and life of Brian and Lindsay. And that is why it's so important that we brought you all here today, because we're not just celebrating them, we're celebrating all of us, and we're celebrating how lucky we are to be part of the life that they're building together. As you all know, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and the craziness of what goes on and forget to appreciate the beautiful parts of life. So really, what I think is that this ceremony is a chance to step away from that day-to-day and celebrate the life that Brian and Lindsay have built together, the life that they will build, and to remember all the times that we've shared with them, and to reflect on how amazing it is that a love like theirs exists in this world. It's a chance not to just live in the moment, but in all the memories and moments we have shared with them that they have shared with each other.
We met nearly a decade ago, and though we're the same age, I've looked up to her as a mentor and role model since the day we met. Lindsay and I studied abroad together, so we went from being strangers to roommates to fast friends within the span of a few days. Lindsay always projected an aura of maturity in our cohort full of naive college students all abroad for the first time. During that semester, she taught me many things, like that salsa needs to be refrigerated after it's opened. Lindsay's the type of person who gets straight A's while having a full-time job and could still make time to throw down on the weekends. She's also the type to plan and execute an entire wedding weekend with some help from others, but let's be honest, mostly by herself, and still somehow manage to bead bracelets for all of us here. But seriously, Lindsay is an amazing friend and partner. She's selfless, kind, helpful, and just all around good at everything she does. Every family or friend I've introduced Lindsay to will, without fail, tell me afterward, "Hey, I really liked that Lindsay." It's easy to tell that Lindsay has it together on her own, but Brian is truly her other half, and Lindsay is Brian's better half. It's obvious to all of us that they seamlessly complement one another. Everyone in our study abroad cohort would affectionately refer to Lindsay and Brian as mom and dad, since they were like parental figures to all of us and exemplary models of what a good relationship looks like and should be. 9 years and 2 weddings later, that's still true. I'm so happy to know you both, Lindsay and Brian. I don't know, okay. They're always there for everyone, but I'm so happy we all get to be here for them.
Today, they reaffirm that commitment in front of all their friends, family, and loved ones, and honor the significance of those promises together with all of you.
I, Brian, continue to love you, Lindsay, as my wife, to have and to hold, from this day forward, better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till we are parted by death. And with all that I am, all that I have, I honor you. This is my solemn vow.
I, Lindsay, take you, Brian, to be my husband, to have and to hold, from this day forward, for better and for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, until we are parted by death. And with all that I am and all that I have, I honor you. This is my solemn vow.
So we will end this with reaffirming Brian and Lindsay's intentions to each other. Brian, do you remain committed to the intentions, commitments, and promises that you made to Lindsay, and to stay by her side for now and forever?
I will.
Lindsay, do you remain committed to the intentions, commitments, and promises you have made to Brian, and will you stay by his side forever?
I do.
And with that, and by the power invested in the person who married you guys last year, I now pronounce you guys still husband and wife.
We wanted to have 2 weddings because we wanted to hear people tell us how much they like us twice. No, but really, we're so grateful that you guys are all here tonight. Know that many of you traveled from a really far way away. Really and truly, whether you've traveled just from down the road here in Livonia or all the way from Richmond, Virginia, or anywhere in between, we really truly appreciate you being here. The idea of a traditional wedding was really never on the cards for us. It was never on the table. You guys are all of our favorite people, really and truly. And the idea of having people come together and surround us with love and just be together in a time of happiness was something we really could not resist. So we're so grateful that you're all here today. We have a really great group of friends on our wedding party, and we know that it's crazy to ask y'all to come do this twice. So we appreciate all that you've done to be here today and last year and throughout our whole lives and throughout our relationship.
Out of all my friends, I never thought Brian would have 2 weddings. But you know what? I love a party, so all the power to you, buddy. Keep going. So we had a great omen, by the way, that I didn't have this in my speech originally, but it just happened, so I had to add it. Like, his friend Kyle caught a beautiful fish earlier today, and that is a great omen. Back in the olden days, that was a good omen for, like, marriages, so. I don't know if you guys know this, but Brian is a great writer. He actually told me a story recently about him being complimented as a writer. I guess him and Lindsay met in a class that involved writing, and Lindsay had to meet with the professor. And she was talking to the professor and stuff. The professor was like, "Oh, I just got this one student. He doesn't show up for class, doesn't turn his stuff in, but he's just like the best writer I've ever had." And like, and she's like, "Are you talking about Brian LaForest?" Even back then, she knew him so well. At the end of the day, I think one of the greatest stories that Brian's ever wrote is one he's actually writing with Lindsay, and that's their love story. I talked a lot about that when I was out there on the stage. You know, his whole story started out actually way before the story of Brian and Lindsay. It was like more of a prologue, coming of age tale, if you will. Actually, it was more of a screen adaptation of an oscillation between Animal House and Blue Mountain State. Me and Brian were out there, you know, partying and having a good time together. And that plot twist that showed up was Lindsay. And when Lindsay showed up in Brian's life, the story changed to more of a young love story. And, you know, the two of them started writing their pages together. There was ups and downs and rising action, falling action. It turned from a young love story to a story about a romantic adventure of the two of them. They moved to a new state together. They went to a new school together. They met tons of new characters, new settings, and new plots, and some of those new characters became very good friends of theirs. And eventually that story came full circle, and they came back to Rochester, which is kind of funny how, you know, stories come full circle like that, which makes it even a better literary tale where they ended up back here. You know, it's around that time, you know, that Brian decided he was going to close the chapter on that old story and start writing a new story, which was the story of Brian and Lindsay, husband and wife. Now, on that fateful day, on a New Year's Eve, Brian made the best decision of his life, and he proposed to Lindsay. Now, they started this whole new book with their wedding last year, and then continued that first chapter with this beautiful ceremony this year with all of their friends and family and all the people who are going to be part of it. Honestly, I ended my speech last year by saying that I am lucky to be sitting in the front seat of one of the greatest love stories of all time. You know, and I can't wait for the next season in the story of their love. But, you know, that line still rings true today, and I am very excited to see what comes from you guys going forward, and I am so glad to be a part of it. And I would like to just end this with a cheers for everybody to Brian and Lindsay. There's one thing that I wanted to say last year, and it was a super corny pun. You know, not often in life do you get second chances, but here we are. So To Brian and Lindsay, before they were two trees standing alone, now they have united to form a whole la forest.